Darius Coleman stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his luxury penthouse in Atlanta, the skyline glittering like a universe made of ambition. At 34, he was the commanding force behind Coleman Enterprises, a financial empire his late father built but one he expanded with ruthless precision. His Rolex caught the city lights as he swirled his glass of bourbon, the amber liquid reflecting the emptiness he had perfected over the years. Another win, another hollow victory, he muttered, his reflection staring back at him like a stranger. His phone buzzed. It was Marcus Bryant, his longtime business partner, inviting him out for drinks at the Indigo Rooftop Lounge. Darius almost said no. These gatherings were nothing but staged performances where people smiled too wide and spoke too carefully. But tonight the silence of his pristine penthouse pressed on him, so he grabbed his tailored jacket and headed out. 20 minutes later, he moved smoothly through the crowd of Atlanta's elite, each handshake and nod calculated. Then she walked in, Naomi Brooks. She hesitated at the entrance, her soft lavender sundress a sharp contrast to the sequined gowns and designer labels surrounding her. Her natural curls framed her glowing face, and she clutched her small purse as if it was her armor. She looked out of place like a wildflower growing through concrete. Darius found himself staring, his drink forgotten. Something raw and unpolished radiated from her presence, something that cut through the polished performances around him. She stepped toward the bar, her steps careful, deliberate, as if she feared breaking the unspoken rules of this glittering world. "Excuse me," she said softly to the bartender, her voice carrying a hint of southern warmth. "Could I get just a glass of water, please?" The bartender blinked, caught off guard by such a modest request in a room where people ordered champagne by the bottle. Before he could answer, Darius slid into the space beside her. "Make that 2 waters," Darius said, his voice smooth but unusually genuine. Then he added, "And bring 2 glasses of the house special. Trust me." Naomi turned, startled. Her eyes, a deep shade of brown that carried both strength and innocence, met his. "Oh, you don't have to." "Darius Coleman," he interrupted gently, extending his hand. "And you look like someone who doesn't belong in this place." Instead of offense, Naomi's lips curved into a shy smile. "Naomi Brooks, and you're right. I'm here because my best friend insisted I should expand my horizons." She made air quotes, cheeks blushing. "Though I think she just wanted to torture me." Darius chuckled, surprised at how real her words felt compared to the endless shallow conversations he was used to. "Where are you from, Naomi Brooks?" "Savannah. Born and raised, I work at a flower shop and petals and roots. Not exactly what fits in here." She gestured around the glamorous lounge. "This?" Darius leaned closer, lowering his tone. "This is a gathering of people who've forgotten how to be surprised by anything. Until now." Naomi laughed softly, sipping the cocktail the bartender slid toward her. The sparkle in her eyes pulled him in deeper. And as they spoke, about flowers, about dreams, about her small-town life, and even about his childhood wounds, Darius felt something he hadn't in years: anticipation. For the first time in a long time, he didn't know what tomorrow would bring, and instead of fear, it felt like freedom. As the evening at Indigo Rooftop stretched on, the city pulsed beneath them like a living heartbeat. Naomi Brooks tried to ignore the way strangers' eyes lingered on her, curious about how someone dressed so simply could be standing beside Darius Coleman, the man who dominated Atlanta's financial world. She glanced at her phone. "I should go, it's getting late, and I open the shop tomorrow." The words slipped out of Darius before he could stop himself. "Don't." His voice carried an edge of honesty he rarely revealed. "I mean, don't leave yet. Would you like to see the city from a different perspective? I have a place nearby. The view might change the way you see Atlanta." Naomi studied him, as if searching for a crack in his polished exterior. Something in his eyes, something unguarded, made her nod slowly. "All right, Darius Coleman. Show me your perspective." When they left the rooftop together, Darius caught Marcus Bryant's surprised expression across the room. Marcus had never seen him walk away from a networking event, especially not with someone so far outside their curated circle. But Darius didn't care. For the first time in years, he wasn't playing a role. The elevator ride up to his penthouse felt like ascending into another world. Naomi stood close beside him, acutely aware of the soft hum of machinery and the faint scent of his cologne. Fresh, expensive, intoxicating. "Nervous?" Darius asked quietly, his tone gentler than it had been at the bar. "Terrified," Naomi admitted with a small laugh. "This isn't exactly my usual Thursday night." The elevator doors opened directly into his apartment. Naomi's breath caught. It was a masterpiece of understated luxury. Sleek lines, modern art, muted tones that whispered money rather than shouted it. But it wasn't the art or furniture that silenced her. It was the view. Through the massive windows, Atlanta sprawled out like a sea of lights. Towers shimmered against the night, each one telling a story of ambition and survival. Naomi pressed her hand to the glass, her voice soft with awe. "Oh my God. It's like seeing the heartbeat of the world." Darius stood a few steps behind her, watching the way her wonder filled the room. Most women who stepped into his penthouse commented on the furniture, the wine collection, or the priceless paintings. Naomi saw only the beauty of the city, and in that moment something tight inside him loosened. "Would you like some wine?" he asked, already moving toward his collection. "I probably shouldn't," Naomi said, then turned from the window, with a mischievous smile that made his chest ache. "But then again, I probably shouldn't be here at all. Why start making sensible choices now?" He poured 2 glasses of a rare Bordeaux, handing one to her. She took a sip and closed her eyes, savoring the taste. "This is incredible," she said. "Is this what rich people drink instead of the $5 bottles from the grocery store?" Her candor should have felt out of place, but to Darius, it was refreshing. "Maybe so, but I'm starting to think you might be getting the better deal with your $5 bottles." "Why's that?" "Because you probably drink them with people who actually matter to you, in places that actually mean something." Naomi laughed, settling onto his leather sofa with casual grace, tucking her legs beneath her. "Last time, 2 weeks ago, my friend Erica and I split a bottle of Moscato on her porch celebrating her promotion. We got tipsy and sang off-key until her neighbor threatened to call the cops. Best night I'd had in months." Darius listened, not just to her words, but to the way her joy made the room feel warmer. When she spoke of her flower shop, petals and roots, passed down through her family, her eyes lit with a passion that stunned him. She explained how every flower carried meaning: roses for love, lilies for rebirth, sunflowers for hope. "People come in with hearts too heavy to speak," she said softly. "And we help them say what they can't with petals and stems. That's why I love it. Flowers tell the truth for people." Darius had never thought of flowers that way, but in her voice it sounded like poetry. They talked until the city lights began to fade with dawn. Naomi shared stories of growing up with her mother, who had worked double shifts to keep them afloat after her father left. She confessed dreams of opening her own shop one day, even though life had delayed them. In return, Darius spoke of his boarding school years, of the crushing weight of inheriting his father's empire, of the loneliness that even success couldn't cure. As morning crept into the room, Naomi rose reluctantly. "I should really go. I have to open the shop in 3 hours." "Stay," Darius said quietly, almost desperately. "I'll have my driver take you to work. Bring you back this evening." She hesitated, her heart caught in the moment. "Darius, you and I live in very different worlds. Maybe that's exactly why this feels so." His voice trailed off, searching for a word he'd never needed before. "So necessary." Naomi smiled faintly, her eyes filled with emotions she couldn't name. "I had a beautiful night, but I don't know what this is, or what you want it to be." "Neither do I," he admitted, standing before her. "But I know I haven't felt this alive in years." And that scares me more than any deal I've ever closed. Naomi's hand lifted, fingertips brushing lightly against his cheek. So, what happens now? Now, Darius whispered, his voice rough with feeling. I hope you'll let me see you again. As the elevator doors closed behind her minutes later, Naomi carried his card in her purse, her heart racing with questions she didn't yet have answers for. And Darius stood at his window, watching the sunrise paint Atlanta gold, his chest filled with something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. 3 days passed before Naomi finally called. During those 3 days, Darius Coleman found himself checking his phone more times than he cared to admit. The man who once prided himself on control now felt like a restless teenager, his carefully constructed walls crumbling with every thought of her. When her name appeared on his screen, he answered before the second ring. Naomi. Her soft laugh carried through the line, easing the tightness in his chest. It's me, though I guess you already saw the caller ID. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner sometime. Somewhere normal. Maybe in Savannah. I could show you my world. This time. 2 hours later, his Bentley sat parked on a quiet street lined with trees and small shops. Through the window of petals and roots, he saw her arranging a bouquet of white chrysanthemums. She moved with a grace that belonged to someone who poured her soul into her work. She looked up, saw him, and her smile lit up the shop. You actually came, she said, surprised. Did you think I wouldn't? Darius teased as he stepped inside. I thought you'd send a driver, Naomi admitted, pulling off her apron. Rich people in movies are always sending drivers. Darius laughed, a sound he hadn't made so easily in years. I'm not that rich, and even if I were, I wouldn't miss the chance to see you here, in your element. She gestured to the arrangement she'd just finished. White flowers bound with silver ribbon. This is for Mrs. Johnson. Her husband passed last week, 53 years of marriage. That must be hard, Darius said softly. It is, but it's also an honor. Flowers are part of saying goodbye, part of celebrating a life fully lived. Naomi untied her apron, revealing a simple outfit, jeans and a soft sweater that somehow made her look even more beautiful. Ready for the Savannah experience? They walked down familiar streets as she pointed out pieces of her world. The old bookstore where she spent her childhood afternoons, the cafe where she wrote terrible poems as a teenager, the park where she learned to ride her bike. This is Cafe Magnolia, Naomi said, stopping in front of a cheerful bistro with mismatched chairs and colorful artwork. Named after the state flower, not me, though I like to pretend otherwise. Inside, heads turned. Not because of Darius's tailored suit, though it certainly drew glances, but because Naomi seemed to know everyone. Naomi, a woman with purple-streaked braids, called out, rushing over. And who is this? Darius, this is Erica, my best friend, and the reason I ended up at that rooftop bar in Atlanta. Erica's eyes widened, scanning him from head to toe. So this is him, the billionaire who doesn't smile. She pulled Naomi aside, whispering furiously, though Darius could hear enough. Girl, are you serious? Before Naomi shushed her with a glare, he smiled to himself until another woman approached. Her presence was warm, her eyes sharp with maternal concern. You must be Patricia Brooks, Darius said, extending his hand, and you must be the man who has my daughter walking around with stars in her eyes. Patricia's grip was firm, her gaze unwavering. I don't care how rich you are. My daughter has the biggest heart in Savannah, and I won't let anyone treat it carelessly. I don't know what my intentions are yet, Darius admitted honestly. But I do know she makes me want to be better than I am. Patricia studied him for a long moment before giving a small nod. Naomi returned, cheeks flushed, and slid into the booth across from him. Sorry about that. Erica has opinions. I like people who care about you, Darius said simply. Dinner was unlike anything he was used to. Instead of conversations about deals and power, he found himself listening to stories about neighborhood events, local elections, and the small dramas of ordinary life. People stopped by their table to greet Naomi, each one radiating warmth and belonging. Walking her back afterward, Darius stopped under a streetlight, his voice quiet. I can't remember the last time I had dinner where no one wanted anything from me. You just wanted to share your life. Naomi's cheeks heated as she stepped closer. Maybe I do want something. What's that? I want to know what happens when someone like you stops being afraid of feeling something real. The words struck him like lightning. You terrify me, he admitted, cupping her face. I've spent my whole life in control, and you make me reckless. Maybe reckless isn't always bad. And then she kissed him, soft at first, then with all the courage of a woman who had stopped playing safe. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close as if he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Darius whispered against her lips, "Come to Atlanta this weekend. Let me show you my world." The real one, Naomi nodded, her heart pounding. But promise me no games, no pretending, just us. I promise. As he drove back to Atlanta later, Darius caught himself smiling at red lights, humming along to music like a man with his first crush. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about power or money. He was thinking about her. Friday evening, Naomi Brooks stepped off the train at Atlanta's Peachtree Station, clutching a small overnight bag. The sheer volume of people around her felt overwhelming compared to Savannah's slower pace. She had dressed carefully, a simple black dress that her friend Erica promised could work for anything. But she still felt underprepared. Then she saw him. Darius Coleman was waiting near the information booth, dressed down in dark jeans and a fitted sweater, but still looking like he belonged on the cover of a magazine. When his eyes met hers, he smiled in a way that made her heart skip. You look beautiful, he said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. I look terrified, she replied honestly. But she was smiling too. Good. That makes two of us. He took her bag in one hand and her elbow in the other, guiding her with ease through the crowd. His driver, Robert, greeted Naomi warmly, not with the stiff politeness she expected, but with genuine kindness. As they rode through Atlanta's traffic, Darius pointed out landmarks, not with arrogance, but with pride, as though showing her a part of himself. Their first stop wasn't a fancy restaurant or a gala. Instead, the car pulled up in front of a modest brownstone on the west side of the city. This doesn't look like a restaurant, Naomi said curiously. It's not. This is Mrs. Castellano's home. She was my housekeeper when I was a boy. More importantly, she's the one who taught me what real food tastes like. She's 83 now, but she still insists on cooking for me at least once a month. Inside, the apartment was warm, cluttered, alive with photographs and the smell of simmering garlic and herbs. Mrs. Castellano, small but fierce, enveloped Darius in a hug before turning her sharp eyes on Naomi. So you're the one who's got my Darius walking around like he lost his mind, she said with a thick accent, giving Naomi a long look. I hope that's a good thing, Naomi said nervously. Mrs. Castellano burst into laughter. Good? Honey, that boy needed to lose his mind years ago. Sit. Tell me about yourself while I finish the sauce. Dinner was unlike anything Naomi had expected. Over plates of lasagna that rivaled heaven itself, Mrs. Castellano told stories of young Darius sneaking into her kitchen, trying to master her recipes and bringing her flowers on every holiday. Naomi listened, her heart swelling as she glimpsed the boy behind the man. When Mrs. Castellano excused herself to rest, Naomi and Darius walked back to his penthouse under the city lights. Naomi slipped her arm through his, the wine making her braver than usual. Thank you for sharing her with me, she said softly. She's the closest thing I've ever had to a grandmother. I wanted you to meet her because she's part of who I am when I'm not being the CEO. Naomi stopped under a streetlight, studying him. Can I ask you something? Anything. What are you so afraid of? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Darius looked down at her, at the woman who somehow saw through every wall he had built, and felt something inside him break open. I'm afraid you'll realize I'm not worth the complication. That one day, you'll get tired of my world and walk away. I'm afraid I've forgotten how to be someone worth loving. Naomi's hands reached up, framing his face, Her voice was steady, though her eyes shimmered. "And I'm afraid I'll never fit into your world. That I'll embarrass you, say the wrong thing, wear the wrong dress. I'm afraid I'm just some novelty to you. The small-town girl who makes you feel noble." His hands covered hers, his gaze burning into her. "Naomi, you're not a novelty. You're not simple. You're the most complex, genuine person I've ever met. You make me want to be honest, for the first time in my life." She smiled faintly. "Then let's be honest. No games, no pretending, just us." Their kiss under the streetlight was slow and tender, full of promise. And when they reached his penthouse, the city spread out before them like a stage. Darius hesitated only a moment before whispering, "Stay with me tonight." Naomi's breath caught. She took a deep breath, eyes steady on his. "Darius, I haven't," his heart thudded. "Naomi, we don't have to. I want to," she interrupted, stepping closer, her voice trembling with honesty. "I want to with you, but I need you to know so you'll be patient with me." Something in Darius shifted, protective, tender, unlike anything he had ever felt. He touched her cheek gently. "Are you sure?" Her answer was a kiss, soft, nervous but filled with trust. And in that moment, Darius Coleman, the man who had conquered boardrooms and built empires, learned what it meant to hold someone's first love. Naomi Brooks woke to sunlight streaming through floor to ceiling, windows, silk sheets brushing against her skin. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then memory rushed back. Darius's gentle hands, his whispered reassurances, the way he had made her feel cherished, beautiful, safe. She turned carefully and found him propped on one elbow, watching her with an expression that made her cheeks heat. "Good morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Hi." Naomi tucked the sheets closer, suddenly shy. "How long have you been awake?" "A while. I like watching you sleep." "You look peaceful." He reached out, tucking a curl behind her ear. "How do you feel?" Naomi thought for a moment. Her body ached in ways that were new, but her heart felt expanded, bigger somehow. "Different," she admitted. "Good different. Like I crossed some invisible line and can't go back. Do you want to go back?" She met his eyes, searching them. "No. Do you?" Instead of answering, Darius leaned down and kissed her, slow and thorough. When they broke apart, she was breathless. "Does that answer your question?" he murmured. Before she could reply, his phone buzzed from across the room. Naomi nudged him. "You should check it. It might be important." Reluctantly, Darius slid out of bed, pulling on his pants. Naomi watched the lines of muscle in his back as he answered. "Coleman," he said curtly. Then his tone shifted. "Mother, it's early, even for you." Naomi couldn't hear the words on the other end, but she heard the sharpness in the voice. She saw his jaw tighten. "Yes, I remember the charity gala. No, I haven't forgotten. Actually, I do have plans tonight, but I'll be bringing someone." His eyes flicked to Naomi. "My guest is Naomi Brooks, from Savannah. She owns a flower shop." More shrill words came from the phone. Darius winced, then cut her off. "Mother, I'm 34 years old. I'll bring who I want. I'll see you tonight." He hung up and stood still for a moment, then returned to the bed. Naomi sat up, pulling the sheet around her. "That sounded intense," she said carefully. "My mother is hosting a charity gala tonight. She's been planning it for months, and she isn't pleased I'm bringing someone she hasn't vetted." Naomi swallowed. "Maybe I shouldn't go. I don't want to cause trouble." Darius tilted her chin until her eyes met his. "Naomi, you're important to me. That means you're part of my life, including the complicated parts. My mother's approval isn't what I base my choices on. Besides," his lips curved into a faint smile, "I want to show you off." Naomi's stomach flipped. Then panic crept in. "Darius, I don't have anything to wear to a gala. I didn't pack. For that." "Then we'll go shopping," he said simply. And 2 hours later, Naomi found herself in an exclusive Atlanta boutique surrounded by gowns that cost more than her rent. The saleswoman, Celeste, looked her up and down with cool disdain. What's the occasion? She asked, addressing Darius as if Naomi wasn't even there. Charity gala at the plaza, he replied smoothly. She needs something elegant, something that lets her shine. The woman's tone shifted instantly, but her eyes still lingered on Naomi with judgment. Dresses after dresses were brought out, and with every gown Celeste circled Naomi like she was a project to be fixed. This one could work if we do something about the hair. And makeup, of course. The skin tone is tricky, but we can work with it. Naomi stared at herself in the mirror, draped in burgundy silk that felt more like armor than beauty. A wave of discomfort rose inside her. She excused herself quickly and walked toward a small sitting area at the back of the boutique. Darius followed. What's wrong? Naomi sank into a chair, exhausted. I can't do this, Darius. This isn't me. These clothes, this place, this woman treating me like I'm a doll she has to fix. This is your world, not mine. I don't belong here. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. His voice was steady but full of something raw. Naomi, you don't need to change who you are. I don't want you to. My mother, society, they'll have to accept that I'm in love with a woman who wears $5 earrings and knows the meaning of every flower. Naomi froze. You're in love with me? The words surprised even him, but he didn't hesitate. Yes, terrifyingly, completely in love with you. Her eyes filled with tears. I love you too, but I'm scared, Darius. I'm scared that loving each other won't be enough if we can't fit our worlds together. Then we'll find a way. Together. Your world doesn't have to disappear, mine doesn't either, we'll create something new. They went back to the racks and found a simple navy dress, elegant, but still Naomi. When she looked in the mirror, she finally saw herself. On the drive back, she squeezed his hand. Thank you. For what? For choosing me over the dress. He stopped walking, pulled her into his arms, and whispered against her hair, Naomi, I'll always choose you, no matter what. But as they kissed on the sidewalk, both silently, wondered, would love be enough when Savannah's most genuine heart faced Atlanta's most ruthless society? The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom glittered like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers blazed overhead, gold leaf gleamed on the walls, and every surface seemed polished to perfection. Naomi Brooks stood at the entrance beside Darius, clutching his hand a little tighter than she meant to. She felt the eyes of Atlanta's elite on her, weighing, measuring, dismissing. Darius leaned closer, his voice low against her ear. Remember, half the people here came because they had to, the other half because they want to be seen. Very few actually care about the cause. And which half are you? Naomi asked softly, as a waiter passed with champagne. Tonight? I'm here because the woman I love wanted to see my world. Before she could reply, a tall woman with silver hair swept toward them. Her gown was understated elegance, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Darius, she said, kissing the air near his cheek. Then her eyes landed on Naomi, appraising her from head to toe. And this must be Miss Brooks. Naomi extended her hand. Mrs. Coleman, it's lovely to meet you. Eleanor Coleman's handshake was brief, calibrated, just enough pressure to acknowledge Naomi, gone before it could mean anything. Savannah, I hear. How quaint. And you work with flowers. I'm a floral designer, Naomi said, lifting her chin. My shop specializes in arrangements that tell stories. How interesting, Eleanor murmured, her tone suggesting the opposite. She turned to Darius. You should introduce her to Victoria Hartwell. They'll have so much in common. And just like that, she glided away, leaving behind the faint trail of expensive perfume and disapproval. Naomi took a breath, forcing her shoulders back. So, Victoria Hartwell, mean girl supreme, Darius muttered. Sure enough, moments later, Victoria appeared, stunning, elegant, and with a smile that never touched her eyes. Naomi, she said, her voice honeyed with cruelty. Such a unique name, so American. And that dress, Nordstrom? Naomi smiled faintly. Actually, we found it at a boutique on 5th, but thank you. How lovely. I do adore accessible fashion. Victoria's laugh tinkled, all sharp edges. Then she turned to Darius, her hand brushing his arm. How refreshing to see you with someone so authentic. Darius's jaw tightened, but Naomi touched his arm lightly, stopping him. She turned to Victoria, her smile calm but steady. You know, in Savannah we have a saying, you can always tell the size of a person by how they treat those they think can't help them. Thank you for making yourself so clear. For just a moment, Victoria's perfect smile faltered. Then she swept away, leaving Darius staring at Naomi like she'd just performed magic. That, he whispered, was magnificent. The rest of the evening was no easier. Naomi faced subtle insults disguised as polite questions, endured long stares, and listened to comments about small-town girls and ambitious choices. By dinner, her patience was wearing thin. She was seated between a hedge fund manager, who spoke only about his yacht, and a society wife who peppered her with invasive questions about her upbringing. Darius sat across the table, trapped between two women who found every excuse to touch his arm. So, the Botoxed woman said suddenly, tilting her head, your father abandoned you, didn't he? Tragic. I suppose that explains your attachment to older, wealthy men. Naomi froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Conversation buzzed around them, oblivious. But the words rang like a megaphone. I beg your pardon? Naomi's voice was quiet, but steady. Oh, don't take offense, dear. It's natural. Girls from modest backgrounds seek father figures in powerful men. Perfectly understandable. The scrape of Darius's chair cut through the air. He stood abruptly, his voice dangerously calm. Priscilla, that's enough. She simpered. Darius, darling, I was just making conversation. No, he snapped, his voice carrying enough that nearby tables fell silent. You are being cruel to someone who's shown you nothing but grace. He turned to Naomi. Would you like to get some air? She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. On the terrace, the cool October air wrapped around her. She gripped the stone railing, staring out at the city lights, trying to steady herself. I'm sorry, Darius said quietly. I should have warned you how vicious they could be. Naomi shook her head, blinking back tears. No, I'm the one who's sorry. I'm embarrassing you. Everyone in there is wondering what you're doing with me. The girl who doesn't even know which fork to use. Naomi, Darius said firmly, cupping her face so she had to meet his eyes. Stop. You are not embarrassing me. You are not some case study in daddy issues. You are the strongest, most genuine person in that entire room. And they know it. That's why they're threatened. Her lips trembled. Are you sure about this? About us? Because I don't know if I can survive many nights like this. He pressed his forehead against hers, his voice raw. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You make me want to be worthy of you. You make me want a life that matters, not just one that looks impressive. If this world can't accept you, then it doesn't deserve me either. Naomi closed her eyes, letting his words sink deep. For the first time all night, she felt steady again. Next time, she whispered, a shaky smile tugging at her lips. Warn me about the fish fork. Darius's laugh carried into the night, full of relief, love, and promise. 2 weeks after the gala, Darius sat in his corner office, papers spread across his desk, but his mind miles away. He should have been reviewing quarterly reports. Instead, he found himself staring at his phone, waiting for Naomi's midday text, the little check-ins that had become the highlight of his day. The knock at his door was sharp, insistent. Marcus Bryant stepped in without waiting for permission. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of something serious. You look like hell, Marcus said, settling into the chair opposite Darius. When's the last time you slept? I'm fine, Darius lied. The truth was obvious in his face. The sleepless nights, the endless hours rearranging his schedule just to carve out more time in Savannah, had left their mark. Marcus's gaze flicked to the vase of white roses on Darius's desk. A fresh delivery from Naomi that morning. A small card had been tucked inside. New beginnings. Always. She's got you hooked, Marcus said quietly. Darius's lips curved, but before he could respond, Marcus pulled a manila folder from his briefcase and set it on the desk. What's this? Darius asked, his voice instantly sharp. Background check. Darius's jaw tightened. I told you I didn't want her investigated. It's standard. You know that. After the gala, security flagged her. The photos, the speculation. In society columns, someone had to make sure she's not a liability. Darius's blood ran cold. Marcus, I swear. She's clean, Marcus cut in. Completely. No debt, no criminal history, no skeletons in the closet. But he opened the folder. Newspaper clippings, reports, photographs spilled across the desk. Darius scanned the pages, his chest tightening. Naomi's father, Daniel Brooks. Disappeared when she was 12. Not abandoned. Disappeared. No divorce. No death certificate. Just gone. Her mother, Patricia, had filed a missing persons report 6 months later. Police notes suggested gambling debts, dangerous ones, debts that made people vanish. Darius sat back slowly, his throat dry. Naomi had mentioned her father, leaving. He had assumed it was painful, but not this. There's more, Marcus said quietly. Patricia worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. Naomi became the caretaker of the family at 12. Dropped out of college to care for her mother after a cancer diagnosis. Every step of her adult life, she's been the responsible one. Darius closed his eyes, the words cutting him open. That makes her remarkable. It also makes her vulnerable. Marcus replied steadily. She's drawn to you because you represent stability, protection. The security she's been denied her whole life. The question is, Darius, do you know if she loves you? Or what you represent? Silence fell heavy in the room. You're saying she might not know the difference, Darius said slowly. I'm saying you've built walls your entire life, and the first woman who breaks through just happens to have a history that screams, rescue me. Marcus leaned forward. Don't let your feelings blind you. The words festered. That night, Darius drove to Savannah with the folder locked in his glove compartment. Naomi opened the door to her small apartment, her face lighting up the moment she saw him. She rose on her toes, kissing him softly. You're early. I was going to surprise you with dinner, but I only have half the ingredients ready. Darius pulled her into his arms, holding her tighter than usual. She smelled like lavender and warmth, so real it made his chest ache. Are you okay? She asked, her smile fading at the tension in his body. Just work stress, he lied. She led him into the kitchen, chatting as she stirred pasta sauce. But Darius couldn't stop studying her. Every laugh, every gesture, every dream she spoke of, was it her? Or was it what she wanted from him? Finally, he asked quietly, Naomi, tell me about your father. Her hand stilled on the spoon. She turned slowly, her expression shuddered. Why? Because I want to understand you. She stared at him for a long moment before answering. He had problems. Gambling. My mom tried to help, but he said he'd fix it all. Then, one morning he left for work and never came home. Her voice was steady, but her shoulders were tense. The police said he probably walked away. But I know my father. He loved us. He disappeared because he ran out of options. She set the spoon down, her gaze sharpening. Why are you asking me this? Did someone tell you something? Darius hesitated. The folder felt like it weighed 100 pounds in the next room. Someone had you investigated, didn't they? Her voice was quiet, but it sliced him open. Darius swallowed. Marcus thought. Her face crumpled. She turned off the stove, her movements precise, controlled. I see. And what did your investigation reveal? That I'm a gold digger? A con artist? Just a broken girl looking for a daddy replacement? Naomi, no. Because let me save you the trouble. Yes, my father disappeared. Yes, I've been taking care of my mother ever since. Yes, I probably am drawn to your strength. But if you think that means I don't love you for who you are, then you don't know me at all." Her voice rose, fierce, with pain. "Tell me, Darius, right now, do you trust that I love you? Not your money, not your protection, you." The silence was unbearable. He wanted to say yes. God, he wanted to. But Marcus's words, the folder, the seeds of doubt, they tangled his tongue. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She nodded as if his silence answered. "Then go. I can't spend my life proving my love to someone who doesn't believe it. Decide who you want to be, Darius. A man who trusts love or a man who verifies it." Her words hit harder than any boardroom battle, but still, he walked out, and as the door closed behind him, he realized he'd left behind the one thing he couldn't buy back. 3 days of silence stretched between Atlanta and Savannah like a canyon Darius couldn't cross. He buried himself in work, trying to outrun his thoughts. But every flower shop he passed, every white rose in a storefront, dragged him back to Naomi. Marcus called twice trying to explain, but Darius's replies were clipped, cold. His mother, Eleanor, rang to express her satisfaction that the Savannah distraction seemed to be over. Victoria Hartwell even texted, offering dinner and sympathy. Each word made him sick, but nothing pierced him like the memory of Naomi's voice asking, "Do you trust that I love you?" That Thursday evening, he sat alone in his penthouse, the manila folder on his desk like a loaded gun. He'd read it a dozen times, memorized every detail of Naomi's difficult past, and every time the facts told him what he already knew. She was strong, selfless, remarkable. But the seed of doubt still festered. The phone rang. The caller ID froze him. "Patricia Brooks." He answered quickly. "Mrs. Brooks? Is Naomi—" "She's not okay," Patricia said sharply. Her voice carried the heat of a mother's fury. "She's been crying for 3 days, and I want to know why." Darius swallowed hard. No, you listen. I don't know what kind of man you are, Mr. Coleman. I don't know if you're serious about my daughter or just another rich boy passing the time. But I do know Naomi, and she doesn't give her heart easily. If she gave it to you, you'd better decide if you're going to cherish it or break it. Mrs. Brooks, I would never hurt her intentionally." "But you did," Patricia snapped. "Intentional or not, you broke her heart. And I need to know, are you going to fix it? Or should I help her move on?" The question struck him like a blow. He thought of Naomi's laugh. Her eyes lit up when she talked about flowers, the way she'd kissed him like he was her only safe place. "I love her," he said quietly, his voice breaking. "I love her. And I made a mistake. A terrible mistake." "Love isn't enough if you don't trust it," Patricia said, her tone softening but not losing its edge. "Naomi's been hurt before. Not romantically. She's never let anyone close enough for that. But life taught her early that people leave, that security is temporary. Her father's disappearance taught her that even love can vanish without warning. She spent her whole life being the one who stayed. And you were the first man she let herself believe in, the first one she thought she could be reckless with, and you betrayed that." Darius closed his eyes, the weight of guilt crushing him. "What can I do?" "You can figure out if you're brave enough to fight for her. Because my daughter is worth fighting for. The question is whether you're strong enough to prove it." The line went dead, leaving Darius in silence. He sat in the dark for a long time, staring at the folder that had poisoned everything. Then he did something he had never done in his professional life. He called his assistant, cleared his calendar indefinitely, and handed the Morrison Group to Marcus. "I've spent my whole life protecting an empire," he murmured to himself. "And in the process, I nearly destroyed the only thing real I've ever had." The next morning, Darius left Atlanta. No boardrooms, no deals. Just one purpose: to win Naomi back, or spend the rest of his life regretting that he hadn't. Naomi Brooks was sweeping petals off the floor of Petals and Roots when the bell above the door chimed. She looked up, expecting Erica or maybe a customer picking up a late bouquet. Instead, Darius Coleman filled the doorway. Her heart lurched, but she steadied her voice. "We're closed." "Then fire me as your customer," he said, stepping inside, "but don't shut me out." Naomi set the broom aside, crossing her arms. "What are you doing here, Darius?" "I came to tell you I was wrong," he said, simply. His eyes were dark, unguarded. "I let fear and doubt destroy something real, and if you never forgive me, I'll deserve it. But I need you to know the truth before I lose you forever." Naomi's chest tightened, but she kept her tone sharp. "The truth? You mean the part where you had me investigated? Or the part where you couldn't even say you trusted me?" "I didn't trust myself," Darius said, his voice breaking. "My whole life, I've built walls so high I didn't even know how to climb them down. Then you came along, and suddenly everything I thought I knew about love, about control, it fell apart. And instead of embracing that, I panicked." Naomi shook her head, tears burning her eyes. "Do you know what that did to me? I let you in, Darius. I gave you all of me, something I've never given anyone. And you made me feel like I wasn't enough." He reached into his coat and pulled out the manila folder. Slowly, deliberately, he tore it in half, then again, until the pieces scattered across the shop floor like confetti. "This is what I should have done the second Marcus handed it to me," he said. "None of this matters, not your past, not your father's mistakes, not the whispers of people who'll never understand us. All that matters is that I love you, Naomi. I love you, and I will spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve you if you'll let me." Naomi's breath caught. She wanted to stay angry, to cling to her hurt. But the sight of him standing there, stripped of arrogance, begging for her forgiveness, cracked her open. "Why should I believe you now?" she whispered. "Because I'm not asking you to," he replied. "Not today. I'm asking you to watch me, to see how I choose you every day in every way until believing it isn't a choice anymore. I don't want blind faith, Naomi. I want the kind of trust we build together, brick by brick." Her tears finally spilled. She covered her mouth, trembling. "You don't make this easy." Darius stepped closer, his voice rough. "Love isn't supposed to be easy, but it's supposed to be worth it." For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator keeping the roses cool. Then Naomi's arms slid around his neck, pulling him down into a kiss that tasted of salt and forgiveness. It wasn't the same as before. It was deeper, rawer, filled with the ache of two people who had almost lost everything but found the courage to try again. When they broke apart, Naomi rested her forehead against his chest. "Don't ever make me doubt you again." "Never," Darius vowed, holding her like he'd never let go. In that little flower shop in Savannah, surrounded by lilies and sunflowers, they planted the seed of a love stronger than doubt, deeper than fear. 2 weeks after Darius walked back into Naomi's flower shop, life felt different. Not easier. The whispers in Atlanta's high society hadn't stopped, and Naomi still felt out of place at times, but stronger. Because this time, they faced it together. Darius proved himself not with grand gestures, but with consistency. He showed up at Petals and Roots every weekend, helping sweep floors, learning the language of flowers from Naomi. He sent Patricia Brooks groceries when her arthritis flared, not with his name on the delivery, but quietly, respectfully. He even endured Erica's sharp tongue, sitting through a girls' night where she grilled him mercilessly. "Why should we trust you?" Erica had demanded. "Because I love her," he had said, steady and simple. "And because I'd rather spend my life proving that to you than lose the chance to prove it to her." Naomi never forgot the way Erica softened after that, finally offering him a reluctant smile. One Sunday, Naomi and her mother drove to Atlanta. Patricia had been nervous about the trip, but Darius insisted they all have dinner together. When they entered his penthouse, Patricia paused at the floor-to-ceiling windows, her eyes misting at the view. "You live like a king," she murmured. "I'd give it all up for your daughter," Darius said quietly. Patricia turned to him, measuring his words. "Good, because love isn't about what you have. It's about what you're willing to sacrifice. Don't forget that." Dinner was warm, laughter filling corners of the penthouse that had long been silent. For the first time, Darius saw his home not as a cage of glass and steel, but as a place that could hold a family. Later, when Patricia had gone to bed in the guest room, Naomi and Darius stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The night air wrapped around them, soft and cool. Naomi leaned against the railing, her curls brushing her shoulders. "I never thought this would be my life," she said softly. "A man like you, a world like this. A man like me?" Darius asked with a smile. "A man who's powerful, wealthy, untouchable, and yet, you're the one who makes coffee runs with me at 6 in the morning, who holds my hand when I'm too nervous to walk into a room. You're the one who makes me feel safe." Darius slipped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. "Naomi, the money, the power, none of it means anything without you. You are my safe place, you're my home." She turned to face him fully, eyes shimmering. "Do you really mean that?" "I've never meant anything more," he whispered. "I don't want just a love that survives the world, Naomi. I want a love that builds one. With you." Her breath caught, and then in a moment that took her by surprise, he dropped to one knee. Naomi gasped. "Darius?" He pulled a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a simple gold band, elegant and timeless. "I don't need the perfect setting, the perfect moment, or even your perfect trust. Not yet. I just need you. Will you let me spend my life proving to you that love can be more powerful than fear? Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks as she nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes. Yes, Darius. 1,000 times, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and when he rose to kiss her, it wasn't the kiss of a billionaire claiming a prize. It was the kiss of a man who had finally found his equal, his partner, his forever. Below them, Atlanta glowed like a sea of stars. But for Naomi Brooks and Darius Coleman, the brightest light burned in their hearts. A love tested, broken, and rebuilt into something unshakable.